There are a few things that you can do to really hurt the narcissist. I mean, to really put their mind in a tailspin and potentially keep them unhinged for a long time. Sometimes forever, or almost forever. And one of those things is when they discard you, you accept it gracefully. When narcissists discard people, in their mind, they know where that person is at mentally. They they see that that person is codependent, dependent on the narcissist, that they're weak, they're not independent enough to really live an independent life, and there's no one else that can really provide them with the support they need to keep going, because the narcissist would be the person who would have played all those roles in that person's life. When the narcissist discards you, they're convinced that you will struggle, that you will want them back, that you will probably plead for them back. But in any event, you will be in a very difficult situation for a long time. But when the narcissists read the situation that way, they discard you, but you don't react the way they expect. So instead of going into that miserable, devastated space, you kind of nod in agreement, you accept it. You accept it gracefully, you accept it maturely, and let's say you wish them the best. Maybe you don't really say it in those words, but you kind of carry yourself in a way where you accept it and you're okay with it. By the way, if it's the first time you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, if it's the first time that you've been through all that mind screwing, for the to not use any vulgar words here, if it's the first time that you've ever been through that kind of mind screwing, and you're not really familiar with narcissism, NPD, then chances are when you get discarded or when you get heavily devalued, it's going to devastate you. Chances are it's going to put you in a really difficult place, and it might take you a long time to recover, potentially years. But once you've been through the ringer once or twice, and then you're with a new person, you're getting to know them, and let's say you're starting to notice certain patterns. You think they're a narcissist because, you've seen one or two, you kind of seen them all. They come in different varieties, but they have something in common. Your gut would have picked up on it. So let's say you're in the ringer again, and you kind of see what's coming, and you're like, I see. Okay. They love bombed me. Everything was great at the beginning, but, soon enough, words didn't match actions. They start pulling away tactfully, withholding, but then come back as if nothing happened. A heavy devaluation starts to set in. So let's say you kind of see it coming, and you kind of see the discard coming. But you don't give any cues, any evidence away that you know who they are, what they're up to, but you just kind of play along. And let's say the narcissist still thinks that you are, very dependent on them, very weakened, very isolated from other people, such that you can't make it on your own, and they discard you. But let's say because you've been through that before, you were mentally prepared for it, and you simply accept it because you know that's the best thing to do. That's when you do that, you take back full control, and the narcissist loses all control because they are not getting the supply that they were needed. They were relying on you being miserable because that was going to supply them. But you reacting unexpectedly, being okay with it, would have devastated them. So if you do that, you withdraw, and let's say you don't give them any access to you. Just go out and live your life, and the narcissist kind of feels that they didn't actually cause you any real harm. That's the worst thing you can do to a narcissist. One of the worst things you can do is just accept what they're giving you. They're giving you the kick on the rear end, telling you that they don't want you anymore in their lives, and you accept it. That's one of the worst things you can do to a narcissist. Yeah, it is ironic, but that it is. Narcissists don't think the way many of us do. And, you just go on, you don't wish them harm, you don't plead for them back. You make it very difficult for them to even know what's happening in your life. You give them very little visibility over you. Maybe the only way they can see what's happening through your life is either through social media or through mutual acquaintances. But even that, let's say they get very little, that destabilizes the narcissist anymore, because not only have you taken your control back and you're not supplying them, having taken the carpet from beneath their feet, but now to satisfy their ego, they need to really know where you're at and what's happening so they can have this some semblance of control over you. But when you take that away as well, it's kind of like the thing about narcissists is they can't accept that they underestimated you, because it hurts their ego and their supreme kind of confidence facade too much. But at the same time, they did underestimate you, but they don't accept the truth. And it's really difficult for them to come up with some nonsense narrative that they actually buy into, that they didn't underestimate you, because it's not the truth. The truth is they did underestimate you, and they like to lie to themselves. But it's very difficult for them to come up to a lie that they can believe, to deceive themselves, to feel better. And that's why they go in this endless mental loop trying to feel better about the situation, because they try to tell themselves some story that appeases them, but they can't. So they're in this kind of endless loop that it never comes to a satisfactory place. And then they have this feeling that they need to somehow get back into your life, but it's almost like, how do they do that? And how do they do that without losing face? And it becomes very challenging for them, because if you don't accept them back, or if you ignore them, it just gives them another injury, and it didn't fix the initial problem, so they're kind of in a worse boat than they were before. So it just goes from bad to worse. So yeah, I mean, their head's spinning, this endless loop, the record keeps playing itself. They want to reapproach you to put things in a more balanced, stable place, but they don't know how to. They don't have the resources to. But that's their karma. The vengeful type would be like, oh yeah, that's their punishment. But for people who don't have that kind of mentality of revenge, you just want to be happy, that's their karma. Sooner or later, things come back to bite them. And when a situation like that happens, even when they find new supply and they're distracted by other people, oftentimes that new supply and these new people, it doesn't quite do the trick. It doesn't quite distract them well enough, because they're really tied up on the thought of you, because you slipped away so easily. They underestimated you, and they cannot accept that. They don't accept their own flaws, but that's you've shown a big flaw of themselves to them, but they don't want to accept it. So if that happens, just keep them away. It's not your job to appease them and sacrifice yourself more. That's their karma. That's their self-inflicted punishment.